back's up against the wall, just know you got a place to stay. I know sometimes it gets hard, but all you gotta have is faith. If you can rise to it, you can rise through it. If you can rise to it, you can rise through it.
Hey, what's going on, family, and welcome to the Rise to It podcast, your home for personal and professional development. My name is Jonathan Hernandez, aka the letter H, and with me to my right and to your left, Mr. Frankie Liao. Frankie, what you got going on today, man? What's going on in your world? What's going on in your life? Talk to us. How's everything going?
Man, good, man. Blessed, Jonathan. There's so much going on right now. We're in March, at the end of March, and like when the school year in March, you just have so many events going on. And
That's awesome. And Frankie, if y'all don't know, if you're from Central California, you're familiar with his work, but his family, he incorporates his family into everything. So I know we got some events coming up with Rise to It. We're really excited about that. But you always have events going on with your family. So what are some things that in the Frankie Liao schedule on the calendar for you and Celeste?
right, like with the kids, they're all playing sports. All right, so we have Evan doing tennis at the college, and then we have a little boy playing Little League. So it's, just the family life, it's crazy. And then we have like our business, and lately we've been shooting a lot of events. The last event that we shot a former president of Mexico.
Wow.
So that was definitely a first, I want to say a bucket list. Like if somebody were to tell me, hey, one day you're going to shoot a president, I'd be like, you're crazy. That's not going to happen.
That's an honor. That's an honor. Yeah.
Definitely an honor, so that's something that, I'm super proud of.
Yeah, Frankie, for those of you that don't know, he always has something going on in his life, and he's very shy. He's very timid about what's going on until I have to hear about it afterwards, like big things like that. That was like the first time I heard about something like that. But
Yeah.
I know we always talk about leadership. And so for you being a father, Celeste being a great mother to your kids, being the leader in your home, we talk a lot about leadership and Rise to It. And so for you, how would you define leadership? How would you define that concept, and how does it work into your life?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. I think a leader, first of all, is someone who could inspire people, and motivate people, just by their actions, not really what they say, but what they do.
Right.
Somebody who motivates people, inspires them, and just shows lives by example.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what a true leader.
Yeah, shout out to Frankie that does lead by example every single day in his home, but not only in his home, but outside. I learned a lot from him. We talked about that in our first episode. Every single day I'm learning from him. But today we have a very special guest. We got a very special guest that has incorporated leadership into his life and has learned from a lot of the mistakes and has had a lot of major success. And I'm very grateful that my father went to high school with him, and that's how I got to meet Mr. John Shamshoian, CEO and founder of Realty Concepts. So special guest today, Mr. John Shamshoian from Realty Concepts. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you spending some time with us. We're very excited about you having us here.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit, in Central California, Mr. Shamshoian, or I know you like to be called John.
Please.
A lot of people, especially myself, especially a lot of my students, their parents even that are in real estate, it is a household name in Central California. Everywhere I go, from southern Central California to northern Fresno area to Visalia, it is just everywhere. And so a lot of people from our area know what Realty Concepts is. They see the logo everywhere. But can you describe yourself a little bit, give yourself an introduction of who you are and how you really birthed Realty Concepts and got the idea for that?
I will. Thank you. And thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
And thank you for that introduction. As I was listening to you, Frankie, the savor these days because, I'm hearing all these events with the kids and all of that. And I thought to myself, my youngest is 36 now. So I used to do that. And so don't take it for granted. These are very special days, and just take it all in.
Thank you.
But to get to Jonathan's first question, I was born and raised in Fresno, southeast Fresno, and my parents moved out to the country when I was in the 8th grade. So from Sequoia Junior High School, a great big urban junior high school, went to Lone Star, which was elementary, kindergarten through 8th grade. That was a big adjustment. But the blessing ultimately was I ended up at Sanger High School, which I loved my years at Sanger, have lifelong friends, including your mom and dad.
Yes. Yeah.
From those days, then I went to Reedley College and Fresno State. And back then I wanted to be a football coach. So I was a history major and a geography major and a PE minor. But by the time I graduated, I knew I didn't want to teach. So there I was. Then I thought I was going to buy into our family clothing store out in Reedley, Richard's Clothing on G Street. But that opportunity, that door closed, and there I was 2 years out of college now and thinking, now what am I going to do? I don't want to teach. The clothing opportunity is not going to happen. And the only thing I knew about real estate is that if you were good, and to me, good meant if you were honest and you worked hard, there was a lot of money to be made, and that intrigued me. So when I started my career in 1978, so 44 years ago, I knew zero about real estate, but I asked a lot of questions, and I had a lot of very good, loving people who took the time to answer those questions. And slowly but surely, I made plenty of mistakes, but I tried to learn from every mistake I made. And as long as they were honest mistakes, which they always were honest mistakes, I learned a lot of valuable lessons from those.
That's excellent. John, I know you talked about kind of getting into the real estate game and your experience with teaching. And it's interesting to me because throughout this whole process of designing your own business and imagining and envisioning what it's going to be like, you really had to just teach yourself, a lot of the time self-taught. Going back to your upbringing, though, I know Richard's Clothing, Frankie's actually from Reedley, California, so you're very familiar with that.
Yeah, like when you say Richard's Clothing, I'm like, what? I'm like, wow. I remember going into Richard's Clothing. That was the store where you would buy like your Levi's.
That's right. You have
Yes.
the Levi's.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We had the
Yeah.
Levi's, absolutely.
You had the Levi's there, and I remember the big posters, on the wall, the Levi's posters, like huge posters.
Thank you for your business.
There you go.
Yeah, well, my dad would go in there and buy his work clothes there too.
Yeah.
And I want to say you guys had boots, maybe work boots.
Yes.
My dad would buy his work boots there. My mom would go, and like every 6 months, it was like clockwork. She would go in, buy these boots because after 6 months they would be worn down and stuff, and she would get some fresh pair, get his jeans. And I want to say later, tell me if I'm wrong, but later there was like an island in the middle. Like I remember it.
There was,
like,
yes.
Like photographic memory, and you guys started selling like baseball cards, basketball cards.
That happened,
I
yeah.
remember that.
The
That was
trading
my
cards.
cousin Richard, uh-huh.
Yeah, trading
Absolutely.
cards.
Yeah.
So I started collecting cards, and I would go to Richard's Clothing all the time to buy cards. It's such a small
so
world.
crazy. Right.
Everybody's connected. That's so
You know how
cool.
that was. People like you and your family, they were like became part of our family. Our customers were, because they were return customers, they became friends. It was. We also had a clothing store in Fresno, Shams, menswear across the street from the fairgrounds, and that's where I primarily was working out of. But I'd come out to Reedley when they needed the extra help, and it really was. I'd go to work. Really, that was the most fun job I ever had, because it was like, which friend am I going to see today?
That's right.
And so every day was different, and it was good. So thank you. Honest to goodness, our customers were just the best.
So now Frankie is talking about we didn't know this, by the way. We didn't know this coming in. We're going to have this kind of connection and the ties in the Central Valley. But Frankie was talking about how his father brought him into the store. And so I know a lot about Frankie's upbringing because we talk about that. But Mr. Shamshoian, John, can you describe like your upbringing? Because although you didn't realize it maybe at the time, you were actually getting in business because of your parents. So can you describe like where you're from and where they're from, and what was your upbringing like?
I consider we never had a lot of money. My dad worked for the post office, and that was before the post office. most of his years, they weren't paid really well. They went on strike at some point, and their benefits got a lot better. But for most of the time, he was a postman, and my mom worked part-time as a floor lady in a fruit packing house. So we never grew up with a lot of money. We grew up with a lot of love, though. I didn't know any better. I just figured everybody grew up the way I grew up. We'd have one 3-day weekend vacation a year. We'd go to Santa Cruz. I always looked forward to that, and it just was the way it was. I never got to drink sodas or anything because those were whatever they cost, 15 cents or whatever, and I just that just wasn't how I was raised. If we went and got a 15-cent McDonald's hamburger, that was a big thing. I don't feel materially that I grew up with a lot, but I do know that that the family certainly had a lot of love that we shared for each other, and over the course of time, I realized how lucky I was. I didn't realize it at the moment. But looking back and getting to know a whole lot of other people and listening to their life story, it was like I was really blessed. I was really blessed to grow up in the family that I did.
You definitely had your own definition of rich early on.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. I was like, you didn't have rich in money, but definitely rich in values and education.
Absolutely. Yep, I agree.
With those two leaders, John, what would you say as far as influences? It sounds like you had, like myself, like I'm very blessed. I have both of my parents actually live here in the studio today. What were your parents like, and who would you say is the most influential? Would it be both of your parents? Would it be people that you met like early on?
I'd say both of my parents. My mom, I was always so proud of my mom. She was a beautiful lady. She's in heaven now. Both mom and dad are in heaven. But she was a beautiful lady. As I'm thinking of her, I'm picturing her smile. She had a beautiful smile. I was proud of her because she was the president of the PTA when I was in elementary school, and it's like, oh, that's my mom. That's my mom. And she was just a very loving, gracious lady. If indeed I have grace, which I do believe is a gift that I was given, I inherited that from my mother. And from Dad, my dad just worked all the time. They were both Depression babies. They really had nothing. That was back in their day. Although my dad would say those were the best days. The Depression period was the best days. And it's like, why, Dad? And how could that be? And he said, everybody shared with each other.
Wow.
That's how they got through.
That's a bar alert. We got to shout that out real quick. Bar alert for that. Absolutely.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Daddy, you got a bell. But that's how it was. You had a big family, and when they had something, they'd share with their neighbors, and when the neighbors had something, they'd share with my dad's family. And he said it was the best time they ever had. But my dad worked all the time, so we didn't do much together socially because he was always working. But I certainly learned what that looked like. So my grace came from my mom, and my work ethic came from my dad.
I love that. Nowadays, a lot of people, when I was growing up, I think when we probably first met when I was real small, and I'm probably the same height when me and John met because I haven't grown since then, but a lot of people would say that I take after my mother. And over the years, now a lot of people say, oh, I can see a lot of your father in you, Jonathan. So I think that balance of having both of your parents, Frankie and Celeste, she's here in the studio doing her thing as well. She's actually recording all this, and she's making everything look great. But I see the balance in their relationship. I see the balance in my own relationship with Maribel. So I think that's awesome when your children could actually see that growing up, and they could have those influences for sure.
I love your mom and dad, by the way. I mean, Daddy and I go back to freshmen in high school, and I always loved your dad. And then when he met your mom, it was like the best gift he could have ever. God was good.
There we go.
He brought the best gift he ever could to to my friend Emilio.
My father said he needs a bell. Let's give him one. Let's give him one.
Yeah.
There you go. John, I know you talked about the influences, and throughout the years in business, I'm sure you've seen this through your own father, through his businesses that he had. I'm a firm believer, and in Rise to It, we're firm believers in making mistakes, but above all, learning from your mistakes. What would you say are some of those mistakes you made early on in developing Realty Concepts, one of the biggest names in not only Central California? We pride ourselves from being from Central California, but in California, period. It's one of the biggest names in realty and in the realty world. But what are some of the mistakes that you've had and that you learned from and that maybe you could share with our viewers?
So I started in real estate in 1978, and I started Realty Concepts in 1991. And at the time, I knew real estate, but I also knew that I didn't know how to own a company. So I knew lessons were ahead of me. I just didn't know what those lessons were. I had to learn how to control my spending. Real estate is based on commission, so that income can be up and it can be down. So I had to learn that I needed to be judicious in my spending, even when times were good, because they always weren't going to be good, and I needed that padding. Probably the biggest lesson that I had to learn and that I had to overcome was how to deal with myself. Back then, growing up, I had a big inferiority complex. I did not like myself. I didn't like the color of my skin. I didn't like my look. Everybody was smarter than me. Everybody was funnier than me. You name it. Everybody was better than me in every way. And I was very shy, very, very shy. So I had to overcome my shyness. I had to force myself to learn how to talk to people, and which I did. The ultimate survival, needing to survive, can push you to do things that you don't necessarily feel comfortable doing. But over the course of time, I finally asked myself, I'm in my mid-30s by now, and I finally asked myself, why do people respect me? Because fortunately in my industry, I was respected. And the answer was so easy, so clear, but it took me 35 years even to ask the question. And while I spent 35 years looking at everybody else's gifts and wishing that I had them, I didn't realize, people respected me because I was kind and thoughtful and
Right,
fair,
right.
sensitive, honest. And I thought, that's why people respect me. God gave me, not only did he give me my package of gifts, but he gave me an outstanding package of gifts.
Right.
And so I realized that our gifts are the good things about us that come naturally to us. And I've been able to share this over the course of time. It ended up in life that I was a teacher. It's just the classroom setting was different. And I do believe that God sent me through a very long and windy road, but showed me how to get through it. He did indeed make my path straight. So this was one of those lessons. Nobody judges us harder than we judge ourselves.
Amen.
And why is that? We carry our minds with us wherever we go. And so we always know what we're thinking, and we compare ourselves to perfection, and we're always going to fall short. None of us will reach perfection. So You know, nobody judges us harder than we judge ourselves. And we so often take for granted the gifts that God gave us because we were born with our gifts. Our gifts are the good things about us that come naturally to us. And therefore, we oftentimes take them for granted because I thought everybody was thoughtful. I thought everybody was fair. I thought everybody was sensitive. I thought everybody was honest. And then it was like, no, everybody doesn't have those traits. They had other traits, other gifts, but they didn't have that particular package of gifts. So I started to, again, it was like just teaching myself to be thankful for who I was, to love that person that I, for so many years, did not like. And it's like, no, you embrace who you are and be thankful for who you are. So those were really the biggest lesson was to learn to accept myself, to realize that what I had to offer was good, and to believe in myself.
That's really good. That's really good. Yeah.
Frankie still has, and I think is always going to have his business of photography and actually in Reedy. So I'm sure some of that resonated with you, right?
I felt like I could have been just ringing the bell the whole time you were talking.
Exactly.
Just ding, ding, ding. But we are our biggest critics,
Yes.
and I think the minute we just step back and say, relax, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that important. Like everything's going to be okay. And then I think we can get out of our shell, and I feel the same way. Like when you said you're shy, I'm shy. I'm a photographer.
I heard you say
I like
that,
to be.
But you're growing out of your shell. You're growing out of your shell.
Yeah, and like I truly do believe that God is making me get out of my shell. Oh, when I got hired to teach, I almost said no to the position just for the simple fact that I didn't want to be on a classroom stage in front of 32 students all day. And that's why I was saying no, not because I didn't have the skill and the talent. I can do it. It's just being in front of people and speaking. That's why. So I had to, step back and say, do I want to let this roadblock, like shut me down from my dreams, from my goal, or do I just overcome that fear? And it's never going to be comfortable. Like no matter where you want to be, it's not going to be comfortable, So you got to just overcome whatever fear. Like we all have our fears, and you got to overcome those to achieve like success. I do believe it, So
I want to share something with you, Frankie, that you may. I used to always get down on myself. Do you ever get down on yourself?
There's not a photo shoot that I take where I come home and I'm like, that was the best photo shoot I've ever taken. I loved all my pictures. It's always, dang, the lighting was off, or I should have did this, or my setting was here. Like I'm just never, so I'm always getting down on myself.
I used to always get down on myself. Do you, Jonathan?
All the time.
Do you really?
I'm my worst critic.
Because you seem more confident to me than Frankie and me.
I
But
hear
you
that
get
a lot.
down on yourself
I hear
too?
that a lot from my students. They're, how are you so confident? And I go, I'm nervous right now while you're speaking to me.
Wow.
We just had an
Wow.
event in Sanger, California. Shout out to that great event at Fairmont Elementary School. And it was in support of our military and first responders.
Awesome.
And so we have a bunch of these little kids, they got their little mocos everywhere and their little pudgy fingers. And they're like, yeah, right to it. They're going crazy. And actually, it was Celeste's daughter, Frankie's daughter, their daughter, Mia. She was like, man, do you ever get nervous? And I'm like, I'm nervous right now. I don't know these kids. They don't know me. So I think I just hide it better than most people. That's
you
it.
shield it. You shield it. You shield it well. So I certainly would. And so I'd be like, for so much of my life, it'd be, John, John, you messed up. I'm thinking to myself, so not out loud, but I'm just thinking to myself, John, you could have done that better. John, you didn't make that phone call. John, so I'd always be attacking myself. And finally, so I'm again in my mid-30s, before I'm even starting to think it through and trying to understand who I was, it was like, you got to start loving yourself.
Yes.
Because your heart's in the right place. I'm broken. We're all broken. But my heart was in the right place. I wanted to do right. I wanted to do well. It's just that I would fall short doing it. So every time I'd go, John, I started to consciously, again, not out loud, but consciously, I'd say to myself, stop it. You're a good person. You try hard to be a good person. You deserve to love yourself. Just do better the next time. So for years, when I do, John, you messed up, every time I'd say, stop it. You're a good person. You try hard to be a good person. You deserve to love yourself. Just try to do better the next time. And over the course of time, it worked. I started to not attack myself as often. I still would, but then it was always automatic after that. It was like my response, stop it. You're a good person. You try hard. Just do better the next time. So now, every now and then, I'll still do a John, but it's very rare now because I know I'm broken. I'm going to mess up. But it's all about where's our heart? Are we
Absolutely.
trying to do the right thing? Are we trying to do right by others? And if the answer is yes, then it's like, love yourself. You're trying to be a good person. Love yourself. You deserve to love yourself.
Now, John, I know you talked about, and there was bells ringing in my head when you talked about practice. And there's this misconception, I think a lot with my students, especially the younger students, and they always feel that they need to be in a rush. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you talked about you started your business and this whole idea of Realty Concept in your 30s. Is that correct? What was the age where you kind of developed that mindset for that?
1991, so I was 40, just 39.
Are you a broker? Were you a real
Yes.
estate agent before you were 40 and you had real
Uh-huh.
estate experience and then
So I started in 78, so I was approaching 27. I was 26, started in June and turned 27 in October. So a part of me was broken. So and I told myself, God brought me down to ashes. Because he chose to. And so I would tell myself, from these ashes, a tower will rise. And I said that to myself thousands of times because I didn't know right away what was going to happen. There was a lot of uncertainty, but I kept telling myself, from these ashes, a tower will rise. From these ashes, a tower will rise. And I believed it. So people look at me and it's like, oh, he's got a great life. I wish I was living his life. And it's like, I got news for you. Everybody's jacked up, and including me. I know what it is to be living high, and I know what it is to be not knowing if the doors were going to be open the next day. In my company's worst time, our expenses were $130,000 a month, and I had $6,000 in the bank in a drawer of escrows. Everybody was counting us out. John's not going to make it. He doesn't have the financing to get through. John's not going to make it. And John, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it myself. I'll share this with you. I didn't know if I would or not, but I feel like it.
Go for it.
Okay, Annie. So the industry was counting me out. So, and I'm saying this to share. It's like for your listeners, it's like, no, don't ever give up. Believe in yourself. Love yourself. Believe in yourself. Accept that you're broken. And but if your heart is in the right place, that's huge. So here I am. The whole industry is counting me out. And I did. I went and I submitted myself. I was on my knees, and it's like, Father, I'm your child. will do whatever you want me to do, but please make it clear because I'm not very smart. So whatever your will is, I will follow, but please make it clear because I'm not very smart. And what I heard was, I want you to keep your head up, keep moving forward, don't blink, and don't ask why. I'm going to make an example out of you. And a week later, did the same prayer. This time I'm in the Kaiser parking lot in Fresno. And it was like, Father, I'm your child, I'm your son, I totally submit to you. But I will do whatever your will is, but I'm not very smart, so please make it clear. And what I heard was, why are you asking me again? I already told you. I want you to keep your head up, keep moving forward, don't blink, and don't ask why. I want to make an example out of you. And from that day, things just exploded after that. And I paid every dime, because back then I'd juggle. I'd pay the Fresno Bee 1 month and somebody else the next month. But, we recovered. I paid every dime. So I think to get back to your original question, it was like, it's not easy. You've got to, as hard as it is, you've got to believe in yourself. I could not have gotten through my challenges except for my faith. So I would highly advise, if you are questioning or wondering, it's like, well, that's how I got through. This person that you're interviewing today, I don't think I could have gotten through, except that I believed. To me, it's like the Bible, either it's all true or none of it's true. And I choose to believe that it's all true. And if it is all true, then live it. Don't get me wrong. When I say live it, I'm a sinner. I make plenty, I've done plenty bad things. I've been honest. I'm a very honest person, but I am a sinner. But I am forgiven. And if it is through the blood of Christ, and if it is all true, then I need to submit and see what happens. And I got through things I never should have gotten through, except that I believe God showed me the way.
John, wow, that was great. I mean, you're talking about leadership, you're talking about your failures, and one thing that I noticed about you, especially going into your office and having a conversation, is that you are extremely vulnerable. And I think in my opinion, I think a great leader shows vulnerability all the time. They show that they don't know all the answers, that they're still trying to figure out this game of life 24/7, 365. In your opinion, John, over the years, the people that you've been blessed to meet, whether they're working for your company or maybe you're selling them a home and you keep in contact with these families, what is a great leader to you, and what do you think has been the secret ingredient to keep Realty Concepts moving forward 120 miles per hour every single year?
When my associates introduce me and it's like, oh, this is John Shamshoian, this is my boss, it's like, no. Jonathan, if you were my associate, you would be my boss. I work for you. So I look at it that way, that my associates can work wherever they want to. Everybody has choices. They're there because they're putting their trust in me. So they don't work for me. I work for them. And I always, life's hard, so I always looked at it that if we could do life together, if we can have each other's backs, we're going to get through it a lot better than if we're attacking each other. So I always looked at it that a good leader loves the people that he's leading, and he would put, or he or she, they would put the people that they're leading ahead of themselves. You know, especially these days, not only is it the right thing, but people have choices.
There you go.
So,
Yeah.
good leaders give, don't take, I think is a good way to put it in a simple manner.
That's excellent. And Realty Concepts, from what I understand, John, moving forward, where do you see Realty Concepts? And I understand that you're passing the torch, and it's not going really anywhere. It's inside the home, correct? So can you talk a little bit about that? What's the
Well,
vision?
yeah,
What do we got there?
So 8 years ago, when my son was 28 years old, I handed the baton off to him because I started him from he graduated from college, met the love of his life, and got married. And so I don't think he ever thought he was going to get into real estate, except now he's out of school, and it's like I'm married, and I need to figure out where to make some good money in a career. So, Dad, I'm joining Realty Concepts, and he started at the bottom, but the baton was handed off 8 years ago because I wanted to be young enough to stand by his side in case there was pushback, because I knew I was loved and respected, but it was time. It was time for me to slow down, and so in that sense, the timing was perfect. And there was very little pushback, but I must say the future is awesome. He's done a great job. There were a lot. So early on, he asked, it's like, Dad, are you just doing this for show? Or do you really mean that you're going to have me run this? And, I didn't think of that until he asked it. And it really was, when in doubt, I'll go and ask the Holy Spirit, what's the answer? And the answer was, no, you're doing this for real. So it was like, no, son, unless I'm not going to step in unless I think you're making an egregious error. And so there were a lot of things that he did that I wouldn't have done. Almost all of them had to do with spending money, and he spent money a lot more than I would have ever spent money. But almost every decision he made that I would not have done, almost every one was the right decision. So it was like over time it was like, I don't see it, I wouldn't do it. But he's been right much more often than he's been wrong. You promised you'd stay out of the way. You got to keep your promise. And through all of that, the company is now better off than it ever was. He took the company from when I had it 85, 90 people to 300 now. But the key is that he still, Realty Concepts always was a special place. Everybody had each other's backs. The quality of our commitment to professionalism, I felt, led the way in the industry. There are other good, very good people in the industry that aren't part of Realty Concepts, but I did feel that we were the leaders in professionalism. But he was able to grow it and still maintain the quality, still have that sense of family, still have that sense of we're in life together. And so I'm not only really proud of him, but he put a management team together that is incredible. I mean, just so he paid for that management. On the other hand, he has stars helping him run that company, and our staff just tremendously loyal and committed, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. So now that I've stepped back, I get to see all of you young ones take over, and it's like, no, these kids are good. These kids are, you guys are kids to me. You always will be.
That's what my mom says.
But I say that respectfully.
Right.
because it's like, no, you might pound yourself, but you kids are good. You kids are really good.
John, I would say my experience with walking into a Realty Concept environment is second to none. You talked about the quality you take pride in. I'm so glad that you do take pride. I know you're so humble enough, so I'll do the bragging for you. As soon as I stepped into your office, I had people greeting me. They're offering me snacks, and I'm not just talking to like a couple of chips. I'm
Awesome.
talking like
Yeah,
some
yeah.
full-on pastries, different kinds of coffee, some espresso. I was like, wow, I might
Great.
just chill out here afterwards and get a free meal. But thank you so much for joining us and spending your Saturday morning with us. I will say this: we're recording on a Saturday morning. I will say this, John. Um, if you can, leave the future entrepreneurs, the future leaders, and they don't have to be a business owner. They could be working for somebody and still show their glimpses of leadership within their corporation, their school, wherever it is. Leadership's everywhere, right? If you could leave the future entrepreneurs or leaders with some words of wisdom, what would that be?
Well, I'll give you several. So a lot of times, we're unsure of situations, and so kind of being shy, and all that. As part of learning how to communicate, I just got tired of, it's like saying, oh, I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have done that. So I just ultimately got to a point of understanding. I believe the best way to communicate is, what's your truth? What shall I say? Well, what shall I say? What's my truth? And whatever my truth is, that I need to communicate that. So from that, I would say to a lot of people, a lot of my associates, be strong enough to tell the truth and tell the truth compassionately. So if you don't know what to say, it's like, what's your truth? And say it. But then equally as important is how you say it. So it's not only what you're saying, but it's the manner of which you're delivering. So if you're attacking somebody, that's not going to be well received. Just like you would not receive that well if you were being attacked. But if somebody is talking to you in a caring, loving manner, it's a lot different. So be strong enough to tell the truth and tell the truth compassionately. When in doubt about what to say. So when in doubt, tell the truth and tell the truth compassionately. You were not going to be good at everything. Okay, I was not good at very many things, business-wise. But what I was good at, I was really good at. So you have to understand, you don't need to be good at everything, at least my opinion. Just know what you're good at and be extremely good at it. Okay, stand out at something. And typically the things that we stand out on are the things that we like to do. I admire people that force themselves out of their comfort zone. And I respect that very, very much. But typically, we're best at the things that we enjoy doing. So you got to just figure out what do I enjoy doing, and then be really, really good at it. You also have to allow yourself to be successful. Again, we're pounding ourselves. So many of us are pounding ourselves. So in my career, as I was pounding myself and not liking myself, but forcing myself to make sales, because by then I had a young family I had to support, I did start to think, if not me, so what I say, Jonathan, is, and Frankie, is, if not me, who? And if not me, why not me? If not you, who? And if not you, why not you? And what that means is, if not you, who's going to do it better than you? And the answer should be nobody. And it's like, well, people know more than I do. But it's like, no. If your heart is in the right place, nobody's going to do it better than you. That's the key. Is your heart in the right place? Do you want to do right? Do you want to serve others well? Do you want to be honest? And if the answer is yes to that, nobody's going to do it better than you, because a lot of people just want to do whatever is best for themselves. So if you have that special gift of wanting to serve others and do right by others, that's a big thing. So if not you, who's going to do it better? Nobody. And if not you, why not you? What if not you deserving to succeed? What terrible thing have you done in your life that you don't deserve to succeed? And the answer should be nothing. I mean, yeah, we've all messed up. We've all made mistakes, but very, very few of us have done something so terrible that we don't deserve to succeed. Another one would be what I call a fear of flying. Some people are afraid to jump because they tell themselves, if I ever really go for it being success, if I ever really go for it, I could probably be really good, but what's going on there is that if I ever go for it, that's called potential. So that's a security blanket called potential. If I ever really go for it, I could be really good, but I'm not going to go for it yet, because what if I go for it and I fail? Then where am I? At least right now, if I'm just struggling along day to day, week to week, at least I know if I go for it, I could probably be pretty good. But what happens if I do and I fail? So a lot of times people are afraid to go for it because they don't want to risk failing. And it's like, no. And I call that a fear of flying. It's like, no, you've got to fly. You've got to jump. You've got to take that chance. And there's no time. There's just absolutely no time. It's not about you. And as I look at you, Jonathan, I don't mean you personally. So let me put it in this form. In business, it's not about me. It's about my clients. The clients, our clients, everybody says how good they are and all that. People are numb to that. It's not about me. It's about you, my client. So our clients are thinking, I like you, or I wouldn't be sitting here with you, but I like me more. Tell me what's in it for me. So for young entrepreneurs, I don't think it's so important that they promote how good they are. They need to communicate to the public in a manner of what it is in for the public to work with the entrepreneur. So I would say develop that. It's not about you. It's about tell me what you can do for me is what the public is thinking. Tell me how you can help me make my life better. So that's an important one too. I could go on and on, but you're probably just about. I do want to say this. Over the course of time, I thought it was like if I ever make X amount of dollars, if I ever have X amount of dollars in the bank,
Yes.
I'll be in peace. I'll be happy. I could live off the interest. Back then, I was thinking 10%. Interest rates have changed a lot since
Just a
this
little
train
bit.
of thought. But I could be happy in this. I got news for you. I did get there. I did make that much. And interestingly, the year I made the most income was also the year that I took anxiety medication.
Yes.
It's not about income. It's not about wealth. It's not about material. It's important to be able to pay your bills. And I drove myself really hard to get what I got. But once I got it, I realized it's not about material. Peace and happiness, it starts with faith. It starts, to me, with my faith that I'm saved through, as broken as I am, that I'm saved through the sacrificial blood of Jesus. But also, I come home to a happy home. I come home.
That's right.
I come home to a wife that loves me. And I don't take that for granted. My peace is derived from my relationships, my friendships. My peace is. I had to work hard on my marriage. Maybe we'll do another podcast
Absolutely.
someday,
That'd be great. That'd be wonderful.
I'll talk about that. But I had to work hard on that, and so did she.
Right.
But once we finally got it and got through it, it was like, oh, this is what love's about, and it was really, really good. Now I look forward to coming home. I look forward to being loved the way I'm loved. So it never, even though I always thought it was about money, I always thought it was about material, and I do acknowledge, it's like, no, I straight up, I drove hard to get that, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you keep your priorities straight.
That's right.
Because someday we'll talk about that too. I was a horrible workaholic for a lot of years. My priorities were wrong. Maybe the next time, next year when you ask me, we'll talk about that. But the peace comes from relationships, not from material. So if you want, I can end it with that.
Let's do it. Let's do it. And thank you so much, Mr. John Shamshoian, CEO and founder of, I'm just going to speak my truth right now, one of the biggest real estate agencies in the country. And I'm just so fortunate to know you, to now call you a brother. I know you and my pops have a background, but I'm so thankful that our relationship gets to move forward because of my pops and because of the connections that we have. It's never about the income. It's always about the outcome. Speaking your truth.
Right on.
Love. Being transparent, vulnerable. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. John Shamshoian. I think we got to give him a bar alert. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you.
We'll leave you with that, family. Once again, another great episode, phenomenal episode with Mr. John Shamshoian, CEO, founder of Realty Concepts. Thank you so much for joining us. 2 fingers spread. Try to stay positive. Do your best to stay positive. And as always, if you can rise to it, you can rise through it. We'll catch you later.